Hello. One of the projects we've been working on here is we want to transfer some of our heat to radiant floor heat in the large room upstairs. There's not enough wall space on the outside walls for the hot water baseboard, and they used to have a toe kick heater under the kitchen sink. Well, we'd like to heat the whole floor, and then we can get rid of a bunch of the outside radiators. We might need to leave a little bit. And the thing that's been holding us up on part of this project is getting the transfer plates in. So the PEX pipe that we're going to put up along the floor will have an aluminum plate that will help transfer the heat to the floor. Now, I was looking at purchasing some of these, and one of my friends said, "Oh no, you can make your own." So I've gone online and looked at some of the different ways. I went over his place and he showed me a system that he came up with for making these plates, and he's had good success. So I'm going to see if I can replicate that, and I will show you what we're going to try.
We are Gordon and Carissa. Our friends and family say we take on some crazy projects. Maybe. With the kids grown, graduated, and half married off, it's just us, my mom, and our cat Wilbert. With extra time, we started photo and video documenting. We hope you enjoy our projects as much as we do.
All right, I think I have everything together that we're going to attempt to make this form piece, if you will, for making the transfer plates. So what he basically did, my friend did, is he just cut a groove, a small slit in a piece of plywood, and in that slit he put the little U shape of the actual PEX, because the plate is going to kind of just come down along the floor, wrap up around, and then continue. So we're going to try to see if we can make one and then pull some aluminum. So I'm just going to make a straight line here that we're going to try to cut across, and near the middle of this line we're just going to take our piece of 1/2 inch PEX. Is the type he used 3/8, so it's going to be a little bit different. We're using 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to trace that pipe as well. And of course my pencil broke. I'll be right back. Alright, I've sharpened the pencil. Now obviously the pipe itself, loops all the way back in on this line, and we're not going to be able to get that sharp of an angle, but most plates that you buy just come up and come like this. Some loop in here a little bit, obviously the more expensive ones maybe, but we're gonna, being that we're just making our own, we're just gonna kind of come here and try to loop this out. I'm just gonna kind of eye an angle in for that bit there, because we have to try and get this to slide through here in a way that can shape that. There, I kind of like the look of that. Now we'll see if we can't get this drilled out. Lay out our particular piece I'm starting with happens to be 8 inches wide, although I might be getting 6 inches later, but we have to make it large enough for my trial piece, so we'll center that at 4. We'll start here at 8. Here's Okay, I'm going to drill a couple holes so I can get my saw started. There we go. So my saw blade's a little wider than the actual single drill bit. So I did a series of holes and then connected them together so I could get my saw blade in there and not make the hole wider this way That way, I'm trying to keep it as flat as possible for this. So we'll see if we can now try and cut that shape. So I've now cut a groove in the plywood about the shape of what we're going to want to get for a template here, and we will see what we can do. Yes, Wilbert, I know. Okay, I'm coming. You don't want to help? Just want to go out and play. Go ahead. So one of the challenges, he said, is that when first getting it started was the hardest part. So what I think we're going to try to do is try and push it down around one at the beginning to help get the general shape. Set this aside a second. So I happen to have some 3/4 inch pecks as well, which works out to be just about the right diameter. So I'm going to cut this part way off. Then I can put this on, put the aluminum between it, and use it to try and press and get the initial shape started. Had to get the dull knife, didn't I? As you can see, that's not working the nicest. Let's try it the other way. Put my gloves on before I cut myself on this stuff. Now, what the friend of mine had done is he had actually used a little router to kind of create a bit of a V groove going in. I don't have the right size router bit, so we're going to attempt it first just straight without doing anything, and if not, I'm going to then have to maybe take the utility knife and cut a little bit of a V to help it. Let's see if we can get this started. Now, one of the things I didn't ask him was how thick a piece of aluminum was he using. The aluminum flashing, I have some that's 0.009 inches thick. This is, I think, 0.011 or 0.012. It's a little bit thicker. I'd like to see if I can get to work on something as thick as 0.016 or 7. That's about the thickness of the actual heat transfer plates. But we'll see. I've got to get this now turned in a way that I can see if it'll pull through. Well, the shape coming out looks pretty promising, but we're having a hard time sliding it through like I feared, probably because one thing is we don't have the tapered transition, so I'm going to try that, and if not, we can also add a mid-stage point. My father-in-law used to work in roll forming, and they would be rolling steel and that. They don't try to make the shape all at once. They do it in a series of incremental steps. Well, I don't have rollers here, but we're still putting it through the same shaping process, so If I can't get it here, I think if I do a halfway point that only tries to go half as far, that will help get it started. That might make it easier, and then I'd space them out a short distance apart. So we're going to take this out and try to first give that a little more shape. It held some of its shape there. Like I said, we'll give ourselves a little bit of a transition edge on that. Just in the areas that I thought would be getting really the pressure. So I kind of dug a little out on this side of here, and on this side of here, and then on this side of this piece. We'll put it back in and see what happens. Well, it didn't go in much easier, so that's not a good sign, but let's see what happens. Well, you can see that it's working up through a bit, but still fighting me. So I think I'm going to create another template that's half a curve, and we'll do it on this half here, and then I'll connect the two together, and we'll see if that pre-forming it halfway helps, because that's not coming through as easy as I'd like, and like I said, I'd like to actually be getting a slightly thicker stock. So we're going to give this a shot next. Not too bad. You'll see here that I've again created, I'll spin around this way so I can get it here. I again created just a line, and this way I went, just halfway with the piece of pipe. And I've also flattened these edges here out more, because again, we're trying to do about half of what we've got going on with this one over here. You can see here we have the full pipe width, and we've got very sharp corners down here. This is probably the sharpest bit we have going on, is these two transition pieces here, and that might be one of the reasons it's fighting me. All right. You can see now I have two different ones. The first one to start the shape, and the second one to finish it. We're going to mount these. I think I'm just going to, I don't know the exact spacing I should have. I'm sure there's a formula for it. I'm just going to take a 2x4 on its edge, so it'll be about 3.5 inches apart, and we're going to try that. Last screw, I actually broke the tip of the Torx bit right off in the thing, but that's not why I stopped this to show you. So what I've done is I've set the first transition. It'll come into here. This will be standing at some position, and then it will come into the sharper transition through this one here. If I can somehow get it fed through both of them, that's going to be the tricky part. And then hopefully it'll come out this other side the right shape. So we're going to now try to see if we can work it through these. I've kind of overshaped this initial starting piece that I have, but we'll give it a shot. Well, I had quite a bit challenge getting it worked through both of these. If we got the footage, because it may have died on there, then you'll see what I had to go through. If not, I'll explain. I ended up having to take the first piece off, extend the aluminum out a ways, then worked it through the second piece. Once I got it worked through the second piece, then I screwed them back into those same holes, because I tried to line those slots up with each other. Hindsight, if I was to be doing this again, because how much time I fought getting that through, I think I'd go ahead and build these slits like I did the first time, but I think I ended up cutting this board all the way across and having a small spacer that I'd have off the ends. That way the whole top half I could lift up, and then I would screw it and right down to each other so they'd screw down, so I could just lay the aluminum in there, screw these down, kind of form those up. And now we're going to see if it pulls through or not. So where did I put my pliers here? Let's see if this wants to pull through. Well, it's still pretty tight, but well, it's still getting wedged at the beginning half. Got to figure out something different here. So maybe for the finer aluminums, the system works, but clearly not so nicely on these thicker ones. I'm trying to think maybe if the curl was going the other way, if it would make it better. I'm going to place something under here that maybe keeps some of that. Still binding up on this side. This is just, even though it's only half the distance, it's still causing it to kink. So I'm not sure whether I have to add a third one, and if you add too many, the resistance is going to get pretty hard to pull, or what. So I think I can get this. If I add a third one, I definitely need to split it in half and then bring it together. But I'm going to take some time to think about it. It's getting late. I cut the end off just to see if I can pull this through because I had to get it out somehow. So even the short piece there is fighting me. Well, it went crooked, but only after that final piece there kicked out. I think it's feasible. Just going to take me a little bit of fine-tuning to get it. Alright, so I couldn't give up on using just a double jig thing for now. I put in a thinner gauge flashing. See if it even works on that before I go and try and get something for thicker. But definitely fought getting this in as well. So making it so it would split, cut that form, but then cut it out and screw them together would probably make life a lot easier. So the gauge on this is 0.009-ish, and we'll see if it wants to pull through. Yeah, it's seeming better. I don't have a... So using the thinner aluminum, it works quite nice. That's again 0.009 inch thick. I'm not sure how far out that heat will transfer. This happened to be some wide stuff I had sticking around. You don't usually even see them wider. I think then this would be, well, it's a 10-inch piece, so it's probably almost still 9 inches wide. I don't need anything that wide. I might be able to do also kind of a layer underneath, and then if I want to add thickness, I could also just put another layer kind of on top, and the two would work together to help bring the heat out further, maybe. So that might work. Maybe I'll modify this to be able to run that thicker stuff. I think with a couple extra transitions, it stands a chance of working. It's pretty nice. All right, that's all for tonight.